Hey, Neek, I can't say who said it, but do you know what someone once said about Bobby Dandridge after the 79 playoffs?
Mm, I have a guess. What they say?
They said, if you want flash, go with George Gervin. But if you want to win, you go with Bobby Dandridge. What's up, y'all? We are the HoopStorians. I'm Tony Styles. That's Unique. It is April 9th, 2024. Did you want to get into this day in NBA history?
Yeah, let's do it.
Um, April 9th, 1958, a friend of the HoopStorians podcast, Bob Pettit of the St. Louis Hawks, made 19 free throws in his team's 102-100 Game 5 victory in Boston. Pettit set an NBA Finals record for most free throws in one game. It was held till Dwayne Wade broke it in 2006 with 21. How impressive do you think it is to be able to make 20 free throws in a finals game? And what does that entail?
Well, what it entails is practice. What it entails is, just being comfortable in that clutch moment. They're called free throws because they're something that are supposed to come easy. So, as far as how impressive it is, I think the amount of pressure that the finals adds is what more so makes it impressive, in my eyes. But when we have star players hitting free throws, that isn't so much impressive to me. But yeah, it's the clutch performance aspect of it that is impressive.
I guess I was asking you more so how impressive it is for a guy to be able to get at least, if you're making 20 free throws, that means you have to at least 20 free throw attempts. And how impressive is that? And what does that mean that that guy's doing to get 20 attempts?
He's doing good at reading the defense and taking what he can get. I mean, to be able to get that many attempts, that means that you're bringing all kinds of chaos and disruption on the court. You have people that can't keep their hand off. You got people who can't guard you or can't hold you with what you're doing. So, yeah, that will be impressive as well because it's basically showing that I figured you guys out, and there's nothing you can do to stop me. And every time you try, you're just gonna send me to the line, and I'm gonna earn my points there.
Well, that was this day in NBA history. All right, y'all. We have a Bobby Dandridge interview today. Just to let you know, we spoke to him for about 2 hours. Real awesome guy, real cool guy, real nice guy. I got I got nothing but admiration and respect for Mr. Dandridge. Um, we're waiting for Fluent and Chill to join us. They just got done with their show, so I don't know when they'll be here. Within the next few minutes, Fluent does have the interview video. We did run pretty long, so we are going to break up this interview into two parts to try to get in time restraints of our hour and things like that. Without giving away points in the interview and all that, Neek, what did you take away from your interaction with Mr. Dandridge and the couple hours we spent with him today?
So, well, Mr. Dangerous, what I took away is the will of a champion. You know how we talk about like Kobe and like the Mamba mentality and everything like that, and it's good to see that, which I already knew it didn't start there, but it's good to see that there were so many players that had that same mindset where it's we're going to we're going to do whatever it takes to be the best asset to the team. So in speaking with him, that's one of the things that I was able to take away, and that stood out to me, the fact that he was such a team and goal orientated player, or his goals were orientated around the team success. So I love that about the interview. Also, he's very down to earth, very easy to talk to. So that was one of my takeaways, or a couple of my takeaways, I should say.
Yeah, it's like Woodage said right there, most underrated third guy in history. And I don't really even know if he was the third guy. Like I understand he was third in name because I understand that we use the 71 bucks. Oscar, has a higher profile name than him. I don't know if Oscar at that point in his career was still better than him, especially when you look at he was averaging 20 and 10 in the finals that year, on 52%. Same thing in the Bucks championship. A lot of us feel he was the finals MVP. He completely outplayed Wes Unseld, and it's no knock to Wes Unseld. It's just that series, Mr. Dandridge played better than him. So I know that he gets the rap because of the guys he was with. Elvin Hayes, who probably wasn't an MVP level player. He didn't get an MVP, but definitely an MVP level player. Wes Unseld, obviously an MVP. Oscar Robertson, an MVP. Kareem, 6-time MVP. So I get that he gets that third, but like I said, I think in a lot of those series, and I think in a lot of those seasons, he was really more so the second guy. And in a lot of series, he was the best guy, without a doubt.
Yeah,
Would you agree with that?
I agree. Like I was saying earlier, he just knew how to play within the system. He knew how to give you what it was that the team needed at that point in time. It's not easy to play with a bunch of superstars. It's not easy to play with people that you can already tell are going to be future Hall of Famers and avoid the egos and everything like that. So the fact that they figured it out, love it.
Well, what would you say to this? This is what Woody says. He was the second leading scorer on the 71 Bucks and 78 Bullets, but he was the third most popular guy on those teams. Do you think popularity affects whether you're the second, third, first guy or anything like that? Or
As far as
how would you
options,
break that in?
it depends on the coaching style. To be honest, it depends on how sorry the game is on. It depends on how much the coach can be swayed by what everybody else wants. Like, you feel me? You can be very popular, but if the coach doesn't trust you, you're not going to get the minutes. You're not going to get the opportunities to show what you can really do. So I think it's a combination of things. I think there can be some persuasion based on the pressures of getting somebody that everybody wants to see in the game. But I think ultimately the coaches are going to play who they think is going to get the job done.
So with that saying, so if you were the third most popular guy, but you're, second in scoring, a lot of people are feeling like you're playing the best, you're scoring the most in closeout games, game 7. Would you feel like you were the main guy, the second guy, the third guy, even though your popularity is at that lower tier? Or how would you feel? Or if your popularity was higher, but you knew your teammate was outplaying you, would you still feel like you were the main guy?
For me, how I'm performing is going to matter more than my popularity because
Mm-hmm.
I'm able to assess things myself, especially if I'm in the game. So if I'm in the game, we're playing the same game, and I see what I'm doing compared to what you're doing. It doesn't matter what everybody else says. I'm going to know that I did a good job, and I'm gonna rank myself based on that. It's not going to be what everybody else feels. It's not going to be who everybody else likes more. It's going to be, look, when we needed buckets, when we needed stops, when we needed whatever, did I contribute? Did I bring that? And if I did, I'm gonna hold my head high.
Mm-hmm. What's up, Fluent?
How you go,
What's
man?
going on?
How's it going?
Oh, it's going pretty good. I don't know if you know this, but I had like a 2-hour conversation with Bobby Dandridge today, and anytime I could say, I never thought I'd be able to say that, growing up. So it went pretty good. It
Nice.
was a pretty good day. Pretty good day.
Does your dad know yet?
No, I haven't told him yet. So I was gonna wait till the episode airs and all that. So my dad doesn't get on YouTube or anything like that. I
Is
mean,
he a
I can't believe my. What's
Dandridge
up?
guy? Is he a big Bobby
Yeah,
Dandridge guy? Oh, okay.
yeah, he is. I told the story in it. I don't know if you want to wait till you hear the interview for me to tell the story. It's pretty deep into it, but basically, he's the one that told me. He said we were talking about smoothness, and he said, "I'll tell you, who was a smooth MFer was Bobby Dandridge," and he goes, "That's who I modeled my game after." He goes, "But the problem was I was 6'2" and white, so that shit didn't work out for me."
It
So,
did when he played us.
is Chill coming on too, or is, we waiting on
no,
him?
no, we're good to go. Chill is doing playback today.
Okay.
So big news for on a couple of fronts. And then we can jump into the Bobby Dandridge interview. So one, playback. I don't know if you're familiar with playback. Playback
No.
is a NBA streaming platform where you can watch NBA games. And the beauty of it is it allows you to set up like like your podcast here, and you can watch a game and comment. Kind of, how the Manning brothers do the football games.
Yeah.
Like we would be like kind of on side screen watching the game, having a basketball
Yeah. A live
conversation,
watch. A live watch.
a live watch. So we just signed a deal with Playback, so we're gonna bring live games to Chilltown Hoops. He's on doing one right now, and news number 2. and this is the first time that I'm going to be saying this out loud. Next week is our last Fluent and Chill episode on Player's Choice. We are moving Fluent and Chill where it belongs, onto Chilltown Hoops. So next week is the final. We had some contractual things we had to fulfill, which ends next week. So then we're going to begin Fluent and Chill. So in 2 weeks from now, it'll be Fluent and Chill, and we'll lead up right into your show. So it's good. It's all good stuff coming.
Well, it's about time too, because I don't know if you guys realize this, but we are the #1 show on Chilltown Hoops at 10 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday.
You are the #1 show on Chilltown Hoops at 10 p.m. Monday through Friday. That is absolutely correct. Absolutely.
I know. Before we get in the interview, before we get to
the sports scene.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you this before we got into it too. Did you have anything you wanted to say about Bobby Dandridge too? And did you want to do the thing where we pause? Got anything to say?
I'll do it as we go through.
Right.
I will be very upfront and say I know this much about Bobby Dandridge. Before you said, "Hey, he's coming on the show," and then I was like, "Oh, let me check him out." And I was like, "Oh, damn." Now I believe he did play with Paul McKeskey on the Bucks.
Year before.
Did he leave the year before?
Yeah.
Damn, I would have asked Paul about him. So because Paul has a show, obviously, as you know, we got next here on Monday nights too. So
Paul, no, he was in the league with him for a couple of years.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll know each other. So I was not familiar with his game, and I was like, damn. So it should be interesting to hear what he had to say.
Well, let me tell you about a journey though, real quick. He came in a little earlier. We chopped it up for a few minutes beforehand. We were waiting for Chill to join us and all that. Before we started, I said, it's actually the guys whose channel it is. He wants to come on to talk to you. And like I said, Bobby Dandridge, he's like, well, if it's his channel, I guess we should wait for him. That was one of the cool things. Then he said, so I asked him before the show, I said, I have a request to ask as a fan. And he said, what's that? I said, if I sent you my Bobby Dandridge jersey and I send you the money to send it back to me, would you autograph it for me so I can frame it and put it up behind me? And he said, we'll see how the interview goes. So at the end of the interview, he answers the question if I can get the signed jersey or not. So you guys can go on the journey with me and see if he says yes or no.
Tune in to see, will Tony Styles get a signed autographed jersey from the Hall of Famer, Mr.
The Greyhound.
The Greyhound. Oh yeah, that'd be crazy.
Yeah, that's actually that's nice. All right, let's do it then.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to HoopStorians. We are here with legendary Bobby Dandridge. He is a 4-time All-Star, an All-NBA player, an All-Member of the Defense, a 2-time champ, and the real 1978 Finals MVP. How are you doing, Mr. Dandridge?
I'm doing great.
I have to stop already. Do you go into the real Finals MVP?
So I said the real final. I did say the real Finals MVP, and that's different than some of the verbiage we talked about early. And then I meant to say this too. I meant to say Hall of Famer, and I thought I said it, and I guess it skipped. And we actually bring that up in the interview. And this first time I heard the playback, so I did meant to say Hall of Famer as well. But I went into all the other stats as well. So I did mean to say Hall of Famer.
That too.
He did tell me that. He did tell me, they say, hey, I was going to correct you. But so my apologies to you, Mr. Dandridge. You were right. I was wrong. I thought I said Hall of Famer, and I was wrong. Like I was telling you on the phone last week, we were talking to Bob Pettit. I did pass along your message to him. So I wanted to play that for you. This is what he said in response to you. Let me pull it up. I just want to say I just got off the phone today with Bobby Dandridge, and he wanted me to let you know that you inspired him. You were one of the first players that really inspired him because you did the corner shot when no one else was doing it.
Well, I'm glad to know he remembered that. That's very nice, and that also that it maybe helped him a little bit along the way.
Yeah, he's coming on. So I did pass that. And I want to let you know, after I spoke with you yesterday on the phone, literally my next call was Elmore Smith. He called me right after I hung up with you. And he wanted me to tell you that you're still his dude. And he wanted me to let you know what's up. He wanted me to tell you, he said, hey.
Tell him to send me some of that barbecue sauce.
Oh, I told him the same thing.
Uh-oh.
So first off, I've wanted to ask you this question for so long, and I've always and I think it's a very forgotten piece of NBA history. I want to talk about the 1979 series against the Spurs. You guys were down 3-1. You came back and won. Game 7, you had 37, 9, and 5. George Gervin had 42, 6, and 3 steals. You both went 16 for 31. I think it is I think it is the most underrated playoff performance all time from an individual that nobody ever talks about. So I wanted to talk about maybe that series, how you guys got down 3-1, what were the changes to bring it back, and then that epic game 7.
Well, we had pretty much played well against San Antonio all year. And, back during that particular time when like an former ABA team was playing against an established NBA team, that was sort of like a rivalry, ABA versus NBA. And San Antonio had a great team with Gervin, James Silas, Larry Keenan, Keenan and Paulks and all that. And it's interesting, they had us down 3-1, and we were in the hotel room in San Antonio, and one of the teammates, Tom Henderson, called everybody and said, look, here's an interview with Larry Keenan talking about tonight's game. So what Keenan said was, it's over now. We'll never go back to Washington. And that really inspired us. And we came from behind. We won 2 straight games, and then we took it back to Washington, where we won a close game going
107, 105.
Yeah. And I don't know if Keenan ever realizes that his conversation on that television interview motivated us, where we were probably ready to give up, but his personal comments really motivated us. And thank you, Larry Keenan, for running your mouth.
Lit that fire.
Can you talk about that epic game 7, that back and forth you went with George Gervin?
Well, that was really a tough game 7. And, going down the stretch, I think they may have been leading us with about 5 minutes to go in the game. And we got it down, and they were up by 1 with maybe about 40 seconds to go. And we had the ball. And in fact, we had called the play. I don't know who the play was for, but I know I ended up with the ball with about 20 seconds left. And again, this is Larry Keenan. He's guarding me. And I later found out that Gervin and Silas told Keenan to send me to the left, but Keenan didn't listen. And I went right on the baseline and scored the winning basket. So I think Keenan helped us a whole lot during that particular series, but Gervin was just virtually unstoppable. It just so happens going down the stretch, Silas ended up with the last shot, which Elvin Hayes blocked, and we were able to recover the ball with no time on the clock.
Mr. Dandridge, I just want to rewind a little bit because I know a little bit about your career. I know how good you were. I know that you were in the top 5 in league MVP votes at one point. How'd you get involved in basketball?
Would you say that again?
How'd you get involved in basketball?
I was in the 4th grade, and it was a kid in my class who was he may have been close to the shortest kid in the class, and his name was Kermit Qualls. But he was athletic. He could play baseball, football, basketball, everything at a very young age. Back during that time when you went out for recess on the playground, we had these rubber balls that were basically kick balls, which were the bladder probably of the inside of a basketball. And we were over on the basketball court, and he told me, he said, "You tall, you ought to play basketball." And I never had really thought about it, but that day, for that half an hour period, I could not get that ball in that basket for nothing. And what I realized today, it was a 10-foot basket. It wasn't no 6-foot basket.
Right.
Where now fourth grader might be shooting on a 6-foot basket. And once I got out there that day and couldn't put that ball in the basket, I was just hooked from there. And that's how I really got started. And what happened was my mother played basketball in high school, so she had my father put up a hoop in my backyard.
Wow.
And of course, there was no grass in the backyard. And so all I did was hooped all day, and Kermit Quarles got me started playing basketball.
Nice. So it's in the blood. That's what it sounds like. Sounds like it's in the blood.
Oh yeah. I mean, once I started playing basketball in the fourth grade, I stopped playing. You know, I played a little baseball in the summertime. I played some football. But once I got to be about 13 years old, it was just strictly basketball. No other sport interested me.
Nick?
I do have a question. When it comes to basketball, and I know you did other sports like a lot of different athletes do, was basketball the sport you loved most, or was it the one you were best at?
It was the one that I loved.
Okay.
I mean, you know, it was a passion. And even, you know, when I went to middle school, I didn't play much. Going on to high school, you know, I began to come into my own. And if it were a choice back during those days, if it were a choice of going to a party on a Friday night or something like that, and if I knew that there was a very competitive basketball game going on somewhere, I easily passed up the party to go and hoop, especially if I knew it was going to be some good competition there, and it would give me a chance to show my skills. So, I mean, once I got introduced to basketball, that was it. That was number one.
My next question for you is, we got to talk about the 78 Finals MVP, obviously. They announced you were the winner. You know, you get back to the locker, and then all of a sudden, locker room changes to Wes Unseld. One, can you tell me what happened? And then two, did you ever give Wes Unseld any like guff about it, where you're like, you know, I swept you in 71 in the finals. You couldn't beat Barry in the finals. You know, come help you win a ring, and then you steal my finals MVP from me.
That's my trophy, man. That's my trophy.
You know, I didn't go that deep on him. I didn't use all those words to explain it, but I definitely should have been the MVP. Wes was the face of the franchise. He was the owner's favorite player. He was a politically correct guy, and I think that, and I don't like to project why things happen, but it was just, he was the favorite. And
did they ever give you an explanation? Did they ever say, we did announce you, but now we're giving it to, did they ever give you an explanation?
I was the type of guy, and maybe that's the reason I didn't get it, was I didn't want to hear no excuse. Once I didn't get it, you couldn't justify it to me. But I can remember they did a roast for Wes Unseld maybe about 10 years later in Washington, D.C. It was about 7 or 8 speakers there, and I just happened to be the last speaker. And I thought that was odd. Why am I the last speaker? But when I went up, I did let him know that the MVP trophy that's sitting on his mantle belonged to me. And it was about 500 people in there, and everybody was like gasping for air, not breathing. And I looked at Wes, and he looked at me, and he gave me the acknowledgement that, you right.
Because he knew he was right. Absolutely.
Yeah, he knew it. He knew it. But things like that happen in sports, especially if you are. I guess I was considered at that time not a politically correct guy, and during that time, and I mean even in sports now,
right?
Certain guys are going to be pushed ahead of others, and that and it's interesting. I was with a sports writer at the Hall of Fame in 2021 when I was inducted, and he let me know that he cast a vote in that particular situation. And I asked him, well, why did you vote for Wes? And he could not give me a reason.
I just want to say this too for people that don't know. Wes Unseld averaged 9 points and 12 rebounds, 7.7 rebounds. So it wasn't even a classic Wes Unseld series. If they would have even given it to Elvin Hayes over you, that would have made so much more sense. But the Wes Unseld was just. I mean, I liked Phil Chenier maybe even more in that series. And I'm a really big underrated Phil Chenier guy. I think Phil Chenier is very underrated.
Yeah.
My uncle was a big fan of the Bullets. He turned me on to you guys, Bobby Dandridge, Gus Johnson. He introduced me to Walt Frazier. So I'm familiar. I'm familiar with that sort of stuff. But you brought up an interesting point about being politically correct. So growing up in the South, and I would have transitioned a little bit. Growing up in the South, dealing with what you had to deal with. It was very common for players to go to HBCUs.
Oh, yes.
What made you pick Norfolk State?
During the time that I went to Norfolk State in 1965,
the
better players, the better Black players historically were in HBCUs,
right?
Be it the SWAC conference. We were just up and down because they weren't really recruiting Black guys to play in major Division I schools unless you looked a certain way, unless you had a certain grade point average. So it was a lot of considerations. But I remember Embiid said something about why didn't he receive more attention maybe 2 or 3 years ago? And he said, because I look like me. And so that was the situation. But at no time do I regret going that route to HBCU schools, because I know I was nurtured athletically and academically.
Sure.
So for me, it was a blessing. And even when I went into the league, it gave me a competitive attitude and a competitive edge, because probably I might have been the 44th person taken in the draft.
45th, sir.
45th. And there may have been 12, 13 forwards drafted ahead of me at the small forward spot. And, they often said, oh, you were an angry Black guy playing in the NBA. It was just that I was taught if when you competing against each other, we really don't have that much to talk about.
No, we don't.
Until after the game over. And if I've spanked you, well, I'll shake your hand, tell you played a good game, and maybe you'll beat us next time.
Absolutely. Now, Mr. Dandridge, I want Mr. Dandridge, I want to stay right there because, and really quickly, guys, I want to stay right there. When did it become a reality to you? You know what? Maybe I can play at this level. Because at that time, again, we're talking about guys in HBCUs. I mean, Willis Reed went to Grambling State. You went to Norfolk State. So when did it become something that was now becoming realistic? Like, maybe I can play at this level for you?
You know, between my the summer between my freshman and sophomore year at Norfolk State,
Mm-hmm.
I had some older guys who had played at Norfolk State who saw something in me that they saw that I potentially could go further than just Norfolk State.
Mm.
And in the summers, I would travel to Washington, D.C. I'd go to Philly. I went to Atlantic City to just see what my game could be like.
Mm.
And I can remember I was about 19 years old. I went to D.C. to play, and I played against a guy named Jerry Chambers. And Jerry Chambers was the #1 draft pick of the Lakers, maybe in 1968 or 67.
Mm-hmm.
And I played against him on the playgrounds in D.C., and I played well against him. In fact, I bumped him off. And so in the summers, I traveled north where supposedly the better ball players were, and I stood out in the summers playing against these guys that were street All-Americans, the guys that had gone to the Mather High School up in D.C.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew probably by the time I got to my junior year at Norfolk State that I had the ability to play in the NBA.
Nice.
And so I knew because I had seen what some NBA players looked like when I went north in the summers, and I always played well.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to say this. Your senior year at Norfolk, you averaged 32 points and 17 rebounds. Now, as a white man, if somebody would have told me, but he's an angry black man, I would have said, well, then give me 15 angry black men, because that's what I want.
For real.
I understand that.
It's almost 30 and 20. What we doing, man? Crazy.
The angrier, the better. Then that's what I would say.
It's 30 and 20.
Well, see, like I would go to Detroit, and I'd run into Curtis Rowe, who was coming out of UCLA.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, by the time the game was over, I was coming out on top. When I went to Milwaukee, I was the second forward drafted behind a guy named Bob Greason out of Rutgers. So I was the fourth player drafted. We went to rookie camp. And by the time we left rookie camp, which was about 3 or 4 days, they let me know that I had an opportunity to make the team and to be a substitute coming off the bench. But by the time the season started, I was in the starting lineup. And so much of that had to do with, playing in a conference like the CIAA, where, we had great players, and then playing in the summertime. So I didn't like confidence. There was no lack of confidence. And like I said, I worked on my game a lot. I mean, in between classes at Norfolk State, you could always find me in the gym, playing and always looking to play against guys that were better than I was. So it was a process, but like I said, I had that passion for the game. I just loved basketball.
Mr. Dandridge, this is their thing, so I'm not going to hold them up any longer. I'm going to bow out. It was a pleasure talking to you, sir. This is
my pleasure meeting you too.
Thank you very much, my man. This is awesome. But I'm going to bow out. Thank you guys very much for having me on here, man. This was fantastic.
We'll see you later. We'll see you later tonight on the show.
Absolutely, brother. Thank you.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
I had a question for you. Wait, Nick, you got a question? You ain't asked one in a
I
minute.
have several questions, but go ahead with
Go ahead.
yours.
Oh, I just
You
wanted to
want me
ask you. I wanted to ask you. You had a awesome small forward selection in the 1970s. Barry, Havlicek, Dr. J. Could you rank them in terms of competition? Who would you have at the top? Who would
You controversial.
Can we just say 1A, 1B?
Hey, I will say this. I'll just tell you how I feel about this. I think Dr. J is the best, but I think the best peak was Rick Barry.
Well, I was in the barbershop about a year ago, and I had gotten something off the internet, and it showed where John Havlicek had better career stats, and they compared him with Michael Jordan.
I've seen that meme. I've seen that. The 8-0. I've seen that.
And the guys in the barbershop, they were like, who is this guy Havlicek?
That's sad.
And when I ranked the players, somebody's going to kill me, but Havlicek was the best.
Wow.
And when I go back and I look at the 1974 championship finals, Havlicek was the MVP.
Yeah, not JoJo White.
And it was he and I against each other the whole time. And I say, anytime a guy wins a world championship and you guard him the whole time and the guy ends up being the MVP, you got to give him his props.
It worked for that.
Julius Erving, and some people gonna kill me, but if I had to rank those three, I'm gonna go with Havlicek, I'm gonna go with Rick Barry, and I'm gonna go with Doc as third, because in all honesty, I had some of my better games against Doc. And one of the reasons that the Bullets pursued me as a free agent, because they were in the same division as the 76ers, and they knew they couldn't get to the championship unless they got past the 76ers. And it was pretty well known that I was the one player that could compete consistently against Julius Erving. And I sort of, the young guys said, "Oh, Mr. Dandridge, you're not telling the truth." But if you go back and you look at that 78, 79 series, I think it was, and the Bullets knocked off the 76ers, that would sort of prove it out. And I need to go back to a guy named Billy Knight. Billy Knight played with the Pacers.
Mm-hmm.
And there are certain guys that you just hate to see. And your homeboys know that you hate to see this guy. Billy Knight was one of them, and was another guy that played with the Lakers, Jim McMillan. And it was another. The other guy was Bob Love. I mean,
Bob Love was a little bit bigger than you.
Talks about Julius and Rick Barry and all those guys. I mean, was another guy, Willie Wise, that was out of Utah. So that small forward spot during the 70s was a real heated spot.
Yes.
I mean, there was a lot of competition going on at that position, and you got to look at a guy like Billy Cunningham was in the league. You got to look at Bill Bradley. Bill Bradley was tough.
You beat Billy Cunningham. You guys beat the Sixers, Billy Cunningham and Hal Greer, in 5 in your rookie season, didn't you guys?
Yeah. And the interesting thing was you mentioned Hal Greer. Hal Greer probably had more influence on me than anybody else in terms of building up my confidence, because Hal Greer married my English teacher's daughter in Richmond, Virginia. And I was a mischievous kid in school.
I could see it.
And I was mischievous. And my senior year, I go to school, first day in English class. She said, Bob, if you just behave yourself for a week, I got a surprise for you. A week went past, and she said, look, tomorrow bring your tennis shoes and your basketball gear. I got a surprise for you. I had no idea. And at the end of school that day, who walks in the class but Hal Greer?
That's
Nobody in the building knew who he was other than I was.
It's even better.
I had an opportunity to feed the ball and to practice with Hal Greer before he went to training camp with the 76ers. And I got an opportunity to see what it would take to be an NBA player, because at the end of each workout, he would shoot 200 jump shots. And I'm telling you, and on no given day did he miss any more than 7 or 8 jump shots.
People don't understand how good a jump shooter he was. I always tell Hal Greer, I think that's all I ever think of when I think of Hal Greer. I think of the jump shot.
Yeah. What
you got, Nick?
And so he had a big influence on me. And when I went to the league, you know, he embraced me. He didn't say much to me, but you know, there was that acknowledgement, like, wow, you are here. You are actually here. And during that time, I mean, you couldn't just go up to a guy like Willis Reed or Jerry West and high five him and talk to him. You had to wait for these guys to speak to you.
Like, this might have to be a 3-part series, because in just that amount of time, like, you guys talked about so much freaking stuff. Like, no one. Have you ever heard anyone put Dr. J 3rd on that list?
No, but that's why I love Bobby Dandridge.
He just kept it on it.
Never would have I ever in a million years thought someone put Dr. J at 3rd at that list, which is crazy.
All 3 of them are great. You know, I don't really think there is a bad answer, I guess. They were all the best player on a title. Dr. J obviously was the only one out of the 3 that was not a best player on a title team in the NBA. Right. Maybe that factors in. I don't have the answer.
And maybe that is the answer. He wasn't in the number 1 guy on an NBA title team in the NBA. But it's so good to listen to these dudes, and just like, because I always tell everybody, when you're a professional basketball player, because I watch games with people and they're always yelling and screaming, how did he miss that? You don't understand what it's like to play a game, because they all make them in practice. They all make their shots in practice, right? They all like, I used to tell the kids that I coach, I tell them, Ben Simmons hits 3s in practice. It's very different to play. So when you see a player playing great in the NBA, you gotta really appreciate how good they are. So
can I give you a clip? Can I give you a clip for a suggestion? Is Rajon Rondo a great in-game shooter?
Great, no.
Okay, well, would you even give it to him? I mean, what's his 3-point percentage? Like 22% or something like that? I'm not saying he's never hit him, but just generally speaking.
I think he hovers around 30, no?
No, I thought he was lower than that, but hold on, let me just look it up just to make sure I got because I'm going to make a point just to show you. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. He's not a good in-game 3-point shooter, and I think he's in the 20s. But the point being is that they used to have a horse competition back in like 2008, 9, 10, around there, and there was one year where Rondo and Durant made the finals, and they couldn't beat each other, and they just start popping threes. And Rondo just makes like, and I'm just making this up, but it seemed like just 20 in a row, as he was just shooting practice open threes in front of everybody, and he could not miss. And he was going 3 for 3 with Durant. So when you want to say that all these guys make their shots in practice, there is a great example of Rondo on a court, as you can see what it's like for him to shoot in practice, and he just doesn't miss.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point. That's an excellent point. So, yeah, so
that's what we do over here at the HoopStorians. We provide excellent points.
Excellent point. Do you want to cut it and talk about some other stuff, or kind of recap the whole thing? Do you want to play a little bit more? It's going to be 3 parts. This is a long.
I told you it was a long one.
He just hung out with you guys. That's amazing.
Yeah, he was real cool.
You guys just chilling, like had some barbecue. Who's the okay? I gotta ask you 2 questions then, and if it comes up later, please, I'll wait.
Okay.
The barbecue sauce.
Okay, so the barbecue. So barbecue sauces. I've been in contact with me and Elmore Smith. Have been talking back and forth. Elmore Smith, for those that don't know, he holds the record for most shot blocks in a game with 17, and he's held the record for about 50 years now. He's another one of those forgotten guys, but you can't mention. I mean, if you're really talking NBA and you have the record for most shot blocks in a game, you literally cannot talk about the NBA history without Elmore Smith. So Elmore Smith now makes barbecue sauce in the Cleveland area, and suppose it's really good. I've never been to Cleveland, so I've never tried it. I did tell him, I said, if you could send us some. He's got some things going on in his life right now. He said he will give me a call when he's available, give me like a 2-3 day head notice. So that's what he was talking about. I told him that because he was asking me about the podcast. I said we just had Bob Pettit on. I said we got Bobby Dandridge this weekend. He's like, I love Bobby Dandridge, but dude, tell him I said hey. And then I said because they were teammates as well. And then I said yeah. And then we got Bob McAdoo to do next week as well. He's like, oh, that's my guy too. Tell him I said hey. Same thing. The only thing about the Bob McAdoo thing is he said as long as the Heat aren't playing. So on Tuesday, that's the original plan. As long as the Heat aren't playing in the play-in, he'll do it. So wait and hear back when Elmore Smith can do it. So that's the whole barbecue sauce story.
Okay. And when you get that barbecue sauce, it's going to find its way over here, right?
I don't know. I have never ever shipped anything across country lines, so I don't even know the price. I mean, is it the same as I just put it in the mail?
Stop it. Yes, you just put it in the mail, just like
you got to take it to the post office, though.
Well, no, because I mean, here in the States, you can't even bring fruit in from one state to the other.
What?
Here in the States, okay, so we're in the Phoenix area. If you're going to California, you're driving to California, they stop you and check you and make sure you're not bringing any fruit into the state. So in certain states here in the States, you cannot bring fruit. Yeah, you cannot bring fruit from state to state.
That's not true.
You want to put some money on it? I don't say nothing that ain't true.
I don't have to put money on it. I used to drive back and forth between Scottsdale and LA all the time, and I never got stopped and no one checked my fruit.
Ask about it. Look, Google it. Google it. I'm not. Why would I make that up? They got a thing about you can't take fruit.
They probably didn't make it up. Just someone told you some bad information. How many times have you made that drive?
Oh,
Several.
I don't know, 80, 100.
Several.
Hold on.
Let me just ask this: is it a new rule?
Here we go. So, and this is from September 30th. Okay, so this is what it says, and I got it up. California grows the most of the nation's fruits and vegetables. So California's depth of agriculture has a duty to protect the farms and orchards. Outside produce can carry insects or disease that could potentially infect our fields and orchids. So
I'm asking, is this a new thing?
Oh, I mean, I've been experiencing it for 20 years.
Because when I used to drive between Scottsdale and LA along the 8, right? So you know that I'm telling the truth. Right?
San Diego, yeah.
Back and forth along the 8, which, by the way, says like north south, but it goes east west or the
Right.
opposite, which is like I used to. It wasn't. Isn't it the 8 that you take from Tucson to
10.
Phoenix?
Well,
The 10.
Tucson 10. The 10.
The 10. Yeah.
Because the 8 will take you to San Diego.
I'm going north on the 10, and it says I'm going east. I'm like, nah, dude, that's not true. But anyway, not once did I ever get stopped for produce. Not one time. Not one time.
Yeah, they've been, like they said, they've done it for at least 20 years. Literally 2004 is when I started traveling back and forth to California for a while. And that's when it was. So yeah, I don't know. They've been doing it for 20 years.
The only thing I ever got pulled over for was suspicion of looking Mexican. Other than that, they left my ass alone.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Actually, look, Woodage, who's everywhere on the channel, the Simpsons did a spoof on it about the bringing the fruit into California.
Oh, well, if the Simpsons did it, then I know it's true. Okay, then yeah. Okay.
That's in the South Park. That's official.
I'm just saying, yeah, you can Google it though, but
I can't argue with the Simpsons.
You can't. They're big. They're bigger than us right now.
They are. All right. So do you have other stuff planned? Are you gonna do part 2 tomorrow?
No. I mean, I'm cool with doing part 2, part 3. I'll put it this way. I'll tell you what. With this interview, I can knock out my work week all week. I'm cool with it.
I like it. All right.
I'm cool with it. Well, hold on. Here's what I want to know though: is what out of all that is the ranking? Is that what you found the most interesting, or what did you find the most interesting of what we've got out so far?
The most interesting. Okay, well, first let me go back a step because it's not the most interesting, but it's my favorite part is that how open he is. Right, because a lot of times people want to be politically correct, and no, he's like, "Look, I was a bad kid. I was a mean this. I did right." Like people to be that kind of self-aware, and maybe it's just the age thing, right? You get to the point where it's just like, "Hey, this is who I am," and you accept it. So that's the coolest thing about it. I think the rankings that's always subjective. I think the MVP thing is the most interesting because we've always had debates about who should have been an MVP for this series or that series, and that guy got robbed or this person should have. But to actually have an incident where they announce one and then give it to another, like I know, for example, Kareem was getting older. He missed Game 6. David Stern, as the assistant commissioner, or VP, whatever the hell he was, wanted to make a name for himself, and he's like, "Yo, Magic, you're one of the new faces of the league. You're getting this Finals MVP, even though probably should have been Kareem, but I get it because of Game 6." There was that kind of backdoor stuff, but it's not like they announced the winner is this and then went back in the locker room and said, "No, actually, it's that person." And then because you had told me about it, I went and looked, and again, statistically, West was probably the third guy that should have possibly won the MVP. So I think that's crazy, and that is a story that maybe back then was talked about, but I guarantee you 99.99% of basketball fans, not just casual basketball fans, don't know that actually happened.
Can I give you a shout out where I first learned it? Because I didn't know it for a long time either. And then I learned it. Literally, it is the best place that I've ever found to talk hoops is Vintage NBA on Reddit. So they're actually the ones that told me, and that is an awesome community if you really want to learn hoops and talk about hoops and all there. I'm on there all the time, and they just have a wealth of knowledge there. Like I said, I've really studied the game, and I learn all kinds of new stuff from them every day about any subject I bring up. They just give me all kinds of facts, stats, anecdotes. There's a bunch of guys. One of the guys there, he's a moderator there, actually. He's writing a book on the first season ever of the NBA. It's coming out in June. We're going to have him on the show and talk about it. So, there's another guy on there writing a book as well. And so, yeah, there's just a wealth of knowledge. So if you ever really want to learn and you ever got any questions, go to Vintage NBA on Reddit. And that is just an awesome, awesome place if you want to learn about things.
No, that's good because I'm doing a whole and I've been working on it, as people who've watched the panel know, for about 6 months, where I'm going to do a full episode on each NBA season starting in 1947. So like, you know, how the playoffs were set up, who made the playoffs, who was the champion, who was the scoring title, the assist, all that kind of stuff. Just a history lesson on every single year, what the rules were, what changed from the previous year, those types of things. So I'm doing the whole thing, but I'm putting it all together because I'm doing it in 10-year chunks. So it's a lot of, as you can imagine, there's not a lot out there, especially because I'm starting. You know, it's not like I'm starting now and going backwards because that'd be easy. Maybe I should have done that. But I'm starting in the BAA or BBA or whatever. Like I'm starting back then and coming forward. Like, of course, I'm doing a little piece on the Toronto Huskies, the first game against the Knicks. You know, blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, no, that's good. Any additional resources to get info is good. So I'll definitely check that out.
Yeah, and if you need any, you know, you can message him too if you need a guest or whatever for certain seasons and stuff like that. Like here, I'll offer my services for certain seasons and blocks and things like that. But if you want stuff from the 40s, you know, I mean, go there if you need any help, guests. I mean, and them guys will just rattle things off about, couldn't even believe it.
I like a shirt. Is it
Well,
NW?
you should.
Is
Yeah,
it
yeah,
NW?
yeah. But it's the wolf pack.
It's a wolf pack.
So you gotta do that. No, you got a wolf pack. It's the wolf pack. Well, you know, over here we're big on nostalgia. We're big on vintage. So yeah, I had to bring out the NWO for it.
Yeah. Do you know my quick side note, and then I don't know, I'll let you guys get back to it or end the show, whatever the hell you want to do.
We're gonna end the show.
End the show. Okay. So my daughter, both. I have twins. I have boy-girl twins. And so me and my kids would always do I was a big NWO guy, so we'd always do the too sweet, right? So I'd be like two, and my kids would be like sweet, and we do the, you know, where they tap and whatever.
Right.
Nice.
So they're of course in the same preschool. Keep in mind this is preschool, and my kids go like this, too sweet, and they do it to each other. And we got a phone call from a teacher who said, "Hey, this like is some devil sign that your kid is doing, and he needs to stop." And I'm like, "Nah, dude." I'm like, "It's that NWO."
Well, I have two side notes on that. One time when I was in 7th grade, I started writing 69 everywhere, right? You know, and this teacher's like, you know, making it something sexual. And I mean, I was 7th grade, but I was like, I was like, no, I'm a Cancer. It's my symbol. And so she couldn't say anything about it. And then as far as that goes, when me and Neek, we grew up with this guy. He did a little pro wrestling and all that. So I used to do pro wrestling as his manager. You know, I was like 18, 19. We do indie shows with like Superfly Snuka, Macho Man, you know, some of the old stars or whatever. And to get heat, I don't know if you know wrestling terms like that, but to get heat. Okay, so we were the heels. So to get heat, I would come out there and I go, we got to, and you know, since it's an indie show, nobody knows if we're the heels, we're the good guy, you know, nobody knows whatever. So to immediately establish it, we'd get in the ring and I go, real quick, we got a photo shoot tonight after the show. We want to know which pose you like better, this pose or this pose. And then they'd boo us and they'd get pissed off at us and things like that. So yeah, we did I used to do a little managing for pro wrestling.
Just because you said the 69, another fast. So I have two older brothers as well, and they always used to mess with me because they're old, like 6 and 10 years older. And you know that movie, The Omen?
Yes.
Like horror movie.
It's all Damien. It's all for you.
So my middle brother and my oldest brother come up with they made me watch it, which really inappropriate for a kid my age. And my middle brother says, they've planned this out, of course, that my older brother's actually him. And you know how you check, right? You check in their hair, and you'll see 666. So my middle brother had written in a pen 666 on my older brother's head, and as he's pretending to sleep, they make me go back. And I look, and I see 666 head, dude. I'm like, man, and you wonder why I am the way that I am now. But anyways, it scared the crap.
Well, I got an Omen story for you. My dad. So my dad is I don't know how you want to say old school. So we didn't do cartoons, kids, movies. You know, I'm for watching Die Hard and think we watch what he wants to watch when he gets home, right? So we're watching The Omen. I'm 5 or 6, okay? And you know the baboon scene where they're running and all that. And I'm looking at it as a kid, I'm like, these people are way bigger than these baboons. Just beat them up. Like, why are they running from these little animals? My dad, I guess it's not politically correct, but basically, for lack of my dad looked at me, he's like, "Are you fucking stupid? Do you know what a baboon would do to you?" And he was like, "Do you not get it?" Like he couldn't believe I didn't understand at like 5, 6 why they were running from baboons.
And this is before Dave Chappelle, so this is before you knew things would get tossed in the tall grass to never be seen again. So
No, but hey, listen, I grew up watching The Omen, Jaws, Friday the 13th, all the Exorcist.
Everything.
Mean brothers. Anyways,
I grew up watching Sanford and Son. That's all we were allowed to watch. That was our everyday. That was our everyday show.
It's a big one, Martha. All right, cool, man. Cool show. Great interview so far. I look forward to seeing it. Don't go anywhere. I don't know.
Okay.
Sign off. But then once you
I'll
sign off,
sign off. Okay, well, hold on. We got to shout out to our outro music real quick. We changed it for you to avoid the copyrights. So hold on. So like, subscribe, please, and here at the HoopStorians, we're going 0 to 200 real quick.
Till it's finished, please don't make me laugh with that half-ass gimmick. I'm about to get mine and it's about time. Call us Grindhouse, everybody in a house grind. I'm just doing me, I ain't trying to outshine. Trying to kill my vibe is how you get outlined. I don't do it for the views and the likes, boy. I'm just giving you what I wrote last night, boy. I don't care if it isn't what you like, boy. My flow is fucking awesome, ain't it, white boy? Feeling fly.
Yes, it is, B-Dot. So we will check you all tomorrow. Please stay tuned for part 2 of the Bobby Dandridge interview. And you got anything to say, Fluent? Neek? Good?